Welcome back, everyone. This is another episode of the Post-Liamnight Asylum interviews we're doing. Today we're with Moolatycoon, the one and only.
How's it going?
And today we have Coney, me, I'm Pat, and Spellmage is here as another interviewer because he wanted to be here.
Can't even
Okay.
let me have my own
Oh, yeah.
interview.
So, Mulan, we got a couple questions for you to start off.
Oh yeah.
Where did the name Moolatycoon come from?
Oh man, that's a hard one. Well, so like way back when I was like 7 or 8, I really wanted an email because that was the hip thing those days. So my mom let me make an email on KOL.com, which for those of you who don't know is kids online. So yeah, really great. So my 8-year-old brain at that point was like, what do I really want right now? I want money. So I just named myself Moolah, which is money, Tycoon, which is someone who's like super successful. And I guess that just kind of stuck with me. That username for whatever reason, I don't know why. But when I joined Sploder, is that how you pronounce it? Some people do it Splatter, which is horrible. But when I joined, I just kept that name because I was 10 at that point. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm using now because I used it for my email. So now it's everything. So yeah, really fascinating backstory there.
That's interesting. I thought that the Tycoon part would have been like based on the games, like Roller Coaster Tycoon and all that.
Nope, nope, never even played those.
No, dang.
At
All
least by
right.
that point. Like I played them now, like for a little bit. They're just not really my thing though either.
Okay, that's fair. So, has the community had any impact on you as a person outside of the website in any way?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, basically, I grew up here, right? Like I joined the main site, I think in 2010. And then I joined the forums in 2011. So I would have been what, like 11 or 12? I think I like
Dang.
just turned 12, right? So, I mean, I basically grew up a lot on the forums, talking to people. Certainly impacted how I behave or like how I see things. I mean, obviously there are other things that affect how I act too, but definitely just because I was here for such like formative years of my life, I feel like it definitely impacted just like what I like to do and things like that. I don't really know how to describe it, especially because it was such a long time ago that I was here.
That's interesting. Do you I know a lot of people have actually like gone out and met other Splotter users. Have you had a similar experience, or you have not met anyone yet?
I haven't. I'm also pretty anal about my privacy, so like, um, part of it was that. Part of it was just that like I'm too lazy to go visit people. I did like I have a couple people on Snapchat that I talk to here.
Oh, surprising.
Um, I also so for my sister's birthday, because she's like super into Zelda and all that shit, I had Death Warrant because he works at some like water cutting plant or whatever. So I had
Wait,
him.
really? That's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I had him make me a master sword for my
What?
sister's birthday.
How much did it
Yeah, it
cost?
was so cool. He actually made it for me for free, but I still gave him $60 because
Oh,
it
That's
that's
cost
insane. That's awesome.
money to ship it. And he was like, "That's all I'm gonna ask from you." And I'm like, "Yo, like, thank you." So I just paid him extra because, like, I mean, he did that basically for nothing, which was pretty cool of him. But otherwise, I haven't really interacted with too many.
Do you
Right.
like still keep in contact with him, or?
No, well, what happened was I don't know if it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago, but like I just came back because I really stopped using the site after I went away to college. But I came back just to check up on things, and he was also there. And I was like, "Hey, my sister's birthday's coming up, and I remember you worked at this water cutting plant." So that was really the only time I interacted with him. I haven't seen him since though.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
How about or go on?
Oh, I was just saying that's cool. Yeah, just my reactions.
Yeah. So, Moolah, can you give us a quick rundown of your history on Splotter?
Okay. Well, like I said, I joined the main site in 2010. And then I joined the forums in 2011. Uh, I initially started making games that were like the point was that it would be a series. So like I think at that point I was really into like Mario, like Super Paper Mario, that kind of shit. So I had like
Oh, that's why the
World
world like 1.1.
1.1, World 1.2, shit like that.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, so that's where I started. And then once I joined, or I guess I finished my series. I finished my 8 World series. Uh, I think in like 2012 or something like that. And then at some point in there, I got promoted to soldier. Uh, and then there was the whole 10,000 Truths April Fool's prank thing. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but he like pretended to shit on some news or whatever. He got fake demoted, and then they promoted me to make it look like the prank was real, but also it was real promotion. So I don't really know what that was all about. And
The
then
prank
Wait,
is you're
what?
promoted. Haha.
Wait, did you
yeah, I
get
mean,
promoted that time or not?
yeah, I did because it
Like
was
for
like,
good is what I mean, not like
yeah, Truth was like, yo, like he's the only kid who's like acting reasonably. Let's give him a promotion so the prank looks real, and also let's just promote him. And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever.
that's interesting.
And then also when I got promoted to general, so initially they voted on
You're
me,
a
and
general? I
I
didn't even
was,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah. Are you
Wow.
kidding? I was a general for like
Yeah,
4
one of the
years.
longest times actually.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. Don't worry about it.
So I got promoted to general. So
Okay, hold up.
initially,
That was almost kind of like a "who do you know here" type of question. It's like, are
right.
you kidding? Yeah, I was a general. Who do you know here?
Um, so initially they voted on me and they denied me. And like a month later, Ravicale, whatever,
Mhm.
Ravical Salt. I know it's supposed to be Ravical Salt, but forever it's gonna be Salt.
Yeah.
He had to like go for 6 months or something. He'd be back. So he's just like, hey, I'm just gonna promote this guy uh in the interim. And then so they didn't really even vote on me. I just got promoted to general.
That's pretty
Um
cool.
and then afterwards when he came back, I'm like, yo, you guys need to vote on me so it's not like illegitimate. And they did, and I passed that time. But like so I got promoted to general that way. So like really you could say that both my promotions to lieutenant and general were pretty bullshit.
What
Uh
what were the do you remember what the votes looked like when you first got denied? Like who voted for you, who voted against you?
it was close, but I don't even remember who was general at that time, to be honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair.
it was more of like it was a not yet, but soon kind of thing. So like, once I got voted in the second time, I got unanimously approved. But that's also because I'd been a
Mhm.
general for like 6 months. Um, I again, I really don't remember. It's been such a long time. I was worried coming into this interview because I'm like, I honestly don't remember anything from from back in the day.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so I guess as far as games goes, I got my first feature in the World Series I was doing,
Sorry.
and then I guess I kind of really broke into the scene after that EGD where I made Quest Zone and got second place. That was the one that Lonely Roads won.
I was about to say, do you remember what game you lost to? But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That was a big EGD.
it was a
yeah.
huge
That was
game, yeah.
probably. I think that was probably the best one from what I remember. The one after it was pretty good too. And I can't speak for earlier ones because that was the first one I participated in, but just seeming like looking at the quality of the games and the releases, like that was huge.
That was a huge one. Do you remember,
Mhm.
was Oceans 3rd place, or was that, like, 4th?
I thought it was fifth.
5th?
Oceans kind of moved a little bit. It was
Yeah.
third place in platformers.
It was what?
Um,
3rd in
third place
platformers?
in platformers, yeah, but fifth overall.
I was about to say because I remember that was, like, one of, the really, really hype games, like, that's gonna be, like,
Yeah,
the winner
it
of that
was
year.
the pirate ship idea was pretty cool. I did beat the game all the way through.
Mhm.
And
It's really boring.
the end part of the game is not great. Like it's
What
okay.
happened? I never got
It's
past the pirate ship.
the first pirate ship.
Yeah, I'm really bad at Splotter games. I probably
What's
should
it
beat that.
Um, it just gets boring. Like I don't really remember because I haven't played it in years. But it's just like there's another pirate ship that's pretty fun. Um, but like the ending is kind of meh.
Mhm.
Again, this is all very hazy memory. Um, but it just wasn't as good towards the end. The game started off really good, and slowly, like as you got further into it, just got worse. you really had to play it to realize that it wasn't as good. It was still a good game. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, what it especially for the time, like, was super impressive just with how big it was.
Mhm.
But it also kind of came at an unfortunate time where, you know, a bunch of people released these huge games.
Oh, yeah. They really
Um,
came at, like, the wrong time. If that came out, like, a couple months earlier, I think it would've
yeah,
done a lot better.
yeah, absolutely. Or if it was even the EGD before.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I think that too, that was kind of the rise of the massive adventure platformer genre.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
100.
yeah.
Was
That
that
year.
EGD? Because after that point, you start to see a lot more large scale games. So I mean, there is
Mhm.
credit to what Oceans did. It just like the competition, I think, was a little bit better.
That's
Yeah.
Um, but that Quest was my first EGL game. Uh, and then I know you asked for a brief history. Do you want me to keep going, or do
Yeah,
you have
keep
something?
going. Yeah, this is
Well,
great
at least
stuff.
interesting, so we don't care that much.
I just like I felt bad because I'm like, give me a brief history, and I've been talking for like 10 minutes. And then so obviously Questone lost to Lonely Roads, which was pretty fair because Lonely Roads was pretty special for that point in time. Um, and obviously, even if you weren't here, Spell, I probably still would have acknowledged that. Um, so I'm not just trying to suck up here. Um, but so then because of Lonely Roads, like it hadn't really occurred to me that you could do an RPG type game.
Oh,
And
Lonely Roads directly inspired like chapter and stuff?
yep.
Nice.
So from that point, I was like, okay, like that seems pretty cool. Like I want to try making my own. And what I also want to do is make 5 chapters and have each game be a collab with a different user who was like at the top of their field at the time. Um, so I ended up making 2, and then I got bored and stopped. Um, but
Hey, there's
those
only 2
2,
chapter games?
there's only 2 chapter games, yeah.
I swear to
So
God, I remember all 5, but that might be because you probably talked about it at some
wow.
point.
No, I definitely talked about it. I think I even planned who I was gonna collab with too, like super early. I started making the 3rd one, um, and it was like this huge like I made the 1st level, and it was this huge like questing level where you'd go around doing a bunch of stuff that was really cool actually. But I just never finished it.
Mhm.
But the 2nd chapter game got put in the EGL too, which was pretty cool,
Did the
especially
first
'cause
one not? I feel like the first one did too, did it not?
no, it didn't.
Dang,
The
alright, my memory's just shot, I guess.
the first one was pretty good, but it had some things that were a bit rough around the edges that the second one, I think,
Mhm.
fixed a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
'Cause I remember when the chapter series came out, I was like I think I was probably one of your biggest, like, proponents
yeah,
for it because I was just a sucker for that kinda game.
right.
I played,
Definitely I
chapter
mean,
2 and 1
obviously
recently.
what's up?
Oh, I beat them both recently, and,
Oh, yeah.
I
The
definitely
first
agree
one's
chapter 2
hard.
is a lot better.
The first one is hard. I mean, like,
Yeah.
the second one I made a lot easier, like, in terms of
Mhm.
well, not easier, but, like, I added more lives so that way you don't spend an
Yeah.
hour playing through a game and then die, like, on the last level.
There were a
Um,
lot of lives in chapter 1 as well, it's just it was harder
yeah,
slightly.
it was hard. Some of the platforming I remember being really brutal,
Mhm.
which is one of the things I tried to fix when I made the second game was like, "Hey, if you're gonna make this game that lasts, you know, an hour at minimum, maybe don't have these, like, super unfair platforming sections so people don't hate you." Um, so the first chapter game, yeah, I made that. It got featured and was pretty well received, but didn't get into EGL. It might have been voted on.
I think
Uh,
I'm pretty sure that I had suggested it at least.
I think you suggested one of them. I don't remember which
Yeah.
one. And then the second one got in because it was a lot better, just in terms of fixing things. Um, and then I made the second Quest Zone game because I felt like I wanted another shot at it. Um, and then that got inducted into the EGL two, which I was pretty happy about because I think that at least personally for me is my best game. Um, and then from that point, there were a bunch of projects that I had kind of in the wings that I just never finished because I had started to lose interest and like the problem is once you start making these huge games, uh,
Mhm.
it kind of felt to me that it wasn't worth it to make anything else if I wasn't gonna like keep the same quality and size.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
I
Yeah.
totally get that.
which
Yep.
is, you know, maybe kind of a poor attitude, but At the very least, that's just how I felt at the time. So I would end up just walking into these huge projects, and then I'd get bored or something and be like, "Oh, I guess we're screwed because we're not ever gonna finish this." Uh,
Yeah.
Another big issue too was the creator lag. Because once
Oh
you
yeah.
start pushing the boundaries of how big the levels can get, it becomes like pulling teeth to build games. Uh, which is one of the big reasons why I always had someone else do my scenery for me because uh, c- creator lag was just horrible. Like I'd be
Yeah.
like, I don't want to deal with this. I know if I'm going to touch it, like I'm gonna want to hate myself and quit. And that's eventually what ended up happening there with the projects after Quest Zone 2.
Hmm.
And then I retired officially from general, I think in 2017, right when I went off to school because I knew I wouldn't be on as much.
I see. So
Um,
you quit recently, 3 years ago?
a couple years ago, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I kind of been declining in activity for the past couple years, like leading up to that, but definitely like I'd at least been still doing my job.
Wait,
Uh,
Connie's about to defeat Enigma on the first try. That's insane. She's so good.
How do you know that she's gonna win? You know, it's
It's
the
really
end.
close to the end.
Oh, you just know the where. I don't think I've ever played this game before.
this was uh this was inspired by Opprobrium.
Opprobrium?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a
By
great
Super
game.
Piggy. That was like the first game I think that I saw that I was like, wow, that's really cool. Because I remember when I was early, I was playing EGL games and I was like, I want to get one of these.
Yeah,
So
Program is definitely like one of the coolest ones in the AGL, in my opinion.
That's another game
at
that I
least
suggested.
as an early game too is really impressive. Just like when the puzzle plat wasn't really super explored yet.
Oh yeah, it was
Mhm.
also like one of the only puzzle plat games that I thought was actually fun to play.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
especially at the time.
Enigma got the feature, but looking back on it, like there's a lot I guess I would change.
Enigma's
Uh,
honestly very fun though, like compared to most puzzle plats.
yeah, it's just kind of an appropriate ripoff though, so take that as you will.
Mhm.
With the whole, I just basically stole the whip on the fire stairs sequence.
Which she skipped by jumping
Yeah.
up.
Yep. Yep. There, there's a lot of stuff in here where like I just didn't realize the mechanics of how high you could jump, and that kind of breaks it. Or like obviously here, looks like Coney used the pause grenade glitch that just totally breaks the
Yeah.
game. Uh, because you're supposed to be going back and forth. Um,
Oh
but
yeah.
it still works out. I guess looks like most of the game's been played well enough. Um, but this was really also my first puzzle plat too. I think.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a good thing. Puzzle plats are amazing on this website.
Yeah, there's just so many, you know,
Yeah.
like a
I don't even
lot
know
of
how you
them.
can go about doing them.
There's a lot. There's a lot of them, and the problem is they're all kind of the same thing too, where it's like a single level, pretty average scenery. Sometimes, the cool thing is that every game's a little bit different, I think. So sometimes somebody discovers like an individual sequence that's new, and you look
Mhm.
at that and you go like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, how can I use this or how can I change this in my own game?" So there
And then
is
suddenly
something,
everyone's doing it.
huh?
And then suddenly everyone's doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cool thing is though, when something is discovered, like when you see a puzzle for the first time, uh, usually that's not the only way you can use that, right? So if you really
Mhm.
if you're creative, you can say like, okay, like this is established here, but there's a way that I can change this and make it more interesting or different or harder.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think there is merit to all those games being released, but unfortunately, they are also kind of all the same thing. And you kind of have to look at them as a collective for what the achievements are, rather than each individual game. Especially because a lot of them are just boring.
Yeah, a lot of them are really boring.
And this is coming from someone. Maybe I shouldn't be shitting on the puzzle plat because I did make two EGL games that
I
were like
think the problem, okay, this is totally off
long.
topic for the interview, but like I think a lot of puzzle plats are boring because they're like very focused on like tight spaces.
Yeah,
This one has more room to like explore, so like you can actually like have time to like figure out the puzzle, just better.
you talking about Enigma?
Yeah, Enigma and Opprobrium, those the good ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I think.
know.
Oh, I can go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Nope, you
This is
finish.
your interview. You go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things I tried to do while making my games, And this is more apparent in the second quest zone, is to make you utilize less tight spaces and make more kind of hubby type
Mhm.
levels where it's like this big kind of palace or castle that you're exploring rather than like just a generic hallway or whatever. Um, and I think that kind of was more of a theme in the later games that I made rather than the earlier ones.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Spell?
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, I've always not been much of a puzzle game maker. In fact, I don't think I've ever made a puzzle in my entire life.
Yeah,
I just think that for my personal taste towards puzzle games, I think that the platformer does a lot better with exploration than puzzles, especially when like I feel like a lot of the puzzles are just kind of repeats of puzzles that have already been made. It's kind of like copy and paste them.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that is
Um,
my personal view towards them. I don't know if you guys
yeah, I
ended
get
up
that.
agreeing or disagreeing with that.
I think that I prefer more of a balance. I think if you can have a mix of puzzle and action, because puzzles do kind of break up the game a little bit, and if you can get something new or innovative in there, that's really cool. Like discovering a new puzzle for
Yeah.
the first time, or like taking a sequence and changing it to be unique. Always makes for like a oh that's really cool kind of thing when you play a
Mhm.
game. I think adventure planets are fun. The problem is though too when you get too exploration based um, and I think that kind of like in the 2015, 2016 era, there were a ton of games that were like these huge open maps that were beautiful. Like the scenery was all graphics based. Um, and the problem is the game would just be a giant switch hunt. It'd be like, oh, okay, walk
Oh
into
yeah,
this random little hole here and hit this switch, and then go spend 20 minutes looking for the next like invisible switch that you opened up. And there was no real substance to it.
Since
Um,
maybe Victor's watching this, I'm gonna just call out. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I
Victor's fine.
well, I mean, The Inner Worlds by Gamnator, I think, really started this trend of Switch Hunts games.
Oh
Uh,
dang, Ethan liked that game too.
Ethan's
it's
like
no, it's
one of his favorite games.
I thought it was a fun game. I liked it, and it definitely is not as guilty of this as later games, but I'm saying games like that
Yeah.
kind of started with the Inner Worlds,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it is a
Oh, I
little bit of a switch.
understand that. Yeah.
Um, I think he did it well. I think some of his later games though kind of fell into that trap of just being, find the switch, go over here, find a switch. So puzzles, straight puzzle games, maybe not as fun, but I think if you add them in there, it adds some variety.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
A good argument.
especially, you know, I think the more versatile a game is, the better it's going to be, as long as it has a good balance.
This
Uh,
game just breaks when
When
you
was
like pause.
what was like the when did you stop playing games on Splotter? Like, do you know what year that would be if you could pick one?
oh, jeez. I don't know. I mean, I was never really big on playing games to begin with. Um,
I think that was
probably
a
when I
huge
left.
thing actually. I would say probably around the era that we were like really making games in was
Yeah,
everyone was there to make games but not actually play anybody
right.
else's.
Well, I mean, it was really fun to make games themselves. Like if you're on here for people to play your games, um, there isn't really much gratification that comes with that at the end of the day. Like, what does it really mean? I had more fun kind of experimenting and seeing what I could do. And then if people played it, that was good, but I really wasn't too concerned about that.
Ooh,
Uh,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you have some of the most views on the website, and
yeah,
that's
I do. That's I think a lot of it too is because I had a couple big games that kind of blew up. The chapter
mhm.
series was really popular with main site kids, and then for whatever reason, when Jeff put Quest Zone 2 in the EGL, he forgot to put it at the bottom. Uh, so it's just always been at the top. So that's the first game people see when they go to the Epic Game Library. I'm like, I'm not going to complain about that. I don't know why it's there in front of all these other games.
Plus,
Uh,
people
but
like Quest too because it's really.
what'd you say? You cut out there.
Pat,
Uh oh.
Can you not hear me?
I can
There
hear
we
you
go.
now. Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying it's really pretty as well. That's probably part of it.
Yeah, Maddie did a great job with the scenery. Uh, definitely, I'm glad I was able to work with him. I know I listened to a little bit of the interview with Spell last week, and you were talking about that you you thought Maddie was probably the best platformer creator.
Hmm.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, especially with
and
the games that he was making like a couple years ago. He
yeah,
was really, really innovating. I mean, it's just like some of the sequences that he made
yeah, no,
uh,
definitely.
blew my mind. Yeah.
Very
Hmm.
smart kid. I think there was a point where I kind of started to see him pass me up too in terms of how good he was. Once he got Dark Days into the EGL, I'm like, oh, this kid's being really good. Because I'd been watching him from the start really because he collaborated with me on an early game of mine. And from that point on, I was like, oh, like you're pretty good at this. Like let's do more of this stuff together. So yeah, he that's not surprising to me at all.
Mula was the sensei.
Did you have you played like the Vengeance or anything by him?
Honestly, I don't remember. I know I've played some games by him. Uh, I know for certain I played Dark Days. I don't know if I played The Vengeance, but
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I haven't played it. I just don't remember because it's been such a long time.
Yeah, I'm not even sure when the game came out because it's like I think I left at a similar time as you did, and then I came back probably about like a month ago
Yeah,
just to see what Splatter was like at the end.
right.
But is that similar to you, by the way? Did you come back just because Splatter was ending, or do you have
I
another
kind of
reason?
checked. I didn't realize Splutter was ending.
Oh,
I
really? That's surprising.
I was just like, I thought it actually ended a while ago. I thought it ended 2 months ago. So I was just like, I was home and I was bored and I was like, hey, let me just go check this out. Like, I'm wondering if like the games are still there because I wanted to just like go back and relive some memories. And I was like, wait a minute, like the forums are still up. Like, so I thought it was gone. So I just like I've been more active recently, just checking in, especially because
Hmm.
I'm home for break, so I don't really have a ton to do, especially with coronavirus locking everything down.
Yeah, she beat the
Uh,
game. Amazing.
woo, good job. Um, so I don't know if I've played Vengeance or not. The one criticism I do have of Maddie's games is that they're all really dark. Like the lighting
Oh,
is really dark.
Vengeance is very good at fixing that.
Very bright.
Okay, that's good. I mean, like darkness is fun sometimes, but a lot of people used it way too much, and it was just like this is
Mhm.
obnoxious.
Yep.
Thanks, young Pally Man.
Um, but definitely Maddie was really good, and it was fun to see him kind of grow up and grow into his role a little bit.
That's awesome.
Uh, he was kind of there with me too throughout my whole journey on the forums. Like I think he joined at a similar time period,
Yeah,
and
I'd probably say the same. Yeah.
he got promoted to general like a little bit after me. Um, so like we were both really good friends with each other. I
Oh.
know before the interview started, you guys were asking me who all my friends were. Um, most of my friends, honestly, were in the early days of when I was there. Because once I got promoted to general, I kind of stopped using the forums as much, like towards the end. So people kind of looked up to me more than I talked to them as friends. So like usually I just talk to old people.
Yeah.
Um, but like Maddie was definitely there all the way through, which was pretty neat.
Hmm.
Uh, Especially because we both at that time had similar game making styles, and it was just like I vibe with this kid. He's pretty cool.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, and I actually still have him on Snapchat too, so like we talk occasionally, which is nice.
Oh, that's cute.
Are there any specific memories of Splatter that you're like particularly fond of?
Oh god, that's such a long time ago. I really should have brushed up on.
On your Splatter
It's
history?
okay.
Yeah, the problem is everything got deleted. Apparently, thanks to Liam, I
Mhm.
guess. Don't know about anything that happened there
Hey, we
besides what.
might get an interview with Liam soon.
Oh boy, yeah, that's interesting. I was shocked to see him because I was like, oh, like you're still here. I thought people hate you.
Oh, he
I
did
don't
say
think
that.
anyone actually hates him. I think it's just a joke. At least I
Yeah.
don't hate him.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just an internet forum, so
To
like,
be fair, all three of us, except for Coney here, were not here when Liam nuked it, right?
No, I was here.
Oh, never mind then. Okay.
I wasn't. Honestly, I think I might have remembered Jeff or like coming and checking in the forums and seeing everything deleted. Maybe that's why I thought it was gone.
Yeah.
Um,
Because Jeff, I think Jeff originally did not plan on. I think he planned on just having the forums be gone at that point.
yeah, that's probably why I was surprised to see the forum up. Um, Particularly fond memories. It was a lot. Like it's basically my entire childhood here. Uh, I think EGD was pretty special. The one that we were talking about earlier. I got to host an EGD. That was pretty fun. Like way early when I was on the forums, when people still use Tiny Chat. I don't know if either of you were there. I know Coney definitely was there for that.
Oh yeah, the Tiny Chat era.
Yeah, we'd all go on Tiny Chat.
I
Oh,
mean,
dude, some people
was like
post porn on Tiny Chat. That was the first time I ever saw porn because it's still
Wow, thanks, Floater. Really doing good kids fun there. And I remember Jammy would play the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged YouTube series.
I remember that too.
For whatever reason, we watched him on Tiny Chat instead of just going to YouTube and watching him there. But I remember having a lot of fun in those days. And that's like when a lot of my old friends were still there too. So like I talked to a lot of people then.
I mean, so you mentioned Maddie, but I don't think you mentioned anyone else really.
Well, okay, so I was really good friends with Stanley Kitten. I don't know if you guys remember him.
I do, yeah, great guy.
He did the scenery for the first Quest Zone game. I was friends with this girl named Minerva.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was kind of active for a little bit, but she left, I feel like, relatively early.
She had really good looking games.
Huh?
She had like really good looking games.
I think that's why I was friends with her, because I was actually friends with her on the main site first. I think Stanley Kitten might have also been a main site friend. And then we all joined the forums around the same time.
Hey Coney, you can check the shop for the Power Glove.
Wow, you have a textbook memory of this game?
Oh yeah, I played it yesterday, so
No,
yeah, you need to get crystals.
I feel like there's a bunch of people I'm missing, and I feel really bad about that. I got to be friends with some of the older users, like as I got older myself. So like Spell and I started talking every once in a while. El Cranium L, I think I talked to. Coney and I were Tiny Chat friends. I have a very vivid memory when she ate a spoonful of cinnamon on cams, which was funny. And yeah, such a long time ago. I'm sorry, people. I'm
Don't worry
forgetting.
about not having, all the memories. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean that was like years and years ago. Because like again, probably 2017, I wasn't super active in the community, which is why I stepped down as general. Because I'm like, hey, someone who's probably doing this more should probably be doing this job. So it's like really been a long time. Especially because by that point too, I was more of like a mentor, like someone people looked up to rather than like a constant, friend that people talked to, which was fine by me. Just makes it hard to remember the people I did talk to. Usually, like a lot of people who were kind of in the same game making generation I talked to at that point. Like the group of us that were making big platformers and things like that. That was kind of the group I ran with. But again, all this could be completely false, and my memory could be terrible, and that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Do you have any regrets in regards to Splatter?
I don't know. Again, any regrets like that? I mean, maybe I would have made some of my games a little bit differently, but otherwise, not really. I feel like I had a pretty good time just overall. I mean, maybe some of the ways I did, maybe some of the decisions I made is general, but again, pretty hazy memory. And I of the generals at that time was not the problematic one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you always go back and you read some of the comments that you said in like 2013 or 2012, and you just go like, "Oh, I said that." So it's all a little bit cringy, but I don't think I regret that. That's just kind of like part of who I was at that time.
That's fair.
Yeah. So not really a great answer for you there, but
Okay. Well,
that's the best I know.
moving on from just Splatter related stuff, I think you mentioned in your thread that you're currently doing your master's. Do you mind at all talking about your personal life? I know you said you want to be a little private as well.
A little bit. Like I'll try to answer every question, and if I don't give details, I don't give details.
Sure. How about any hobbies? Like, what do you like to do outside of making games on Splatter?
Are you talking at the time or like now?
Right now. I know you don't really make games anymore. It's more of a just a
Yeah.
leeway.
So I mean, I have an internship that I have as a graduate assistantship. So like I'm busy with that usually. Um, it depends. It depends on where I am or like what the situation is. Um, this may not be PG-13, but I've recently picked up drinking as a hobby. Uh,
So
um,
alcoholism or
what?
alcohol? Are you an alcoholic or are you just going to
Oh,
the bars?
yeah. No, I'm not going to the bars right now. I knew that like when all the pandemic stuff was starting, I was like, my friends are gonna want to go out, and that's kind of where I draw the line is going to bars.
Mhm.
At least, especially if they're busy. Like I've made a couple exceptions, but generally I try to stay in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very responsible.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to an extent. No one's perfect. And I definitely could be better, but I'm not terrible about it. Other hobbies. I played tennis when I was younger. Um, but obviously, haven't had a ton of time and or accessibility for that. Um, I still play video games a little bit, but not really as much anymore, just because I've gotten older and less patient.
That's fair. Did you get
Uh,
Cyberpunk?
I did not. I heard it was very disappointing though.
That's
Did
what
you
I
guys?
heard as well. How about this game? So today's interview is sponsored by
Oh,
Raid Shadow Legends, one of the biggest mobile role-playing games of 2020, and it's totally free. Currently, almost 10 million users have joined Raid over the last 6 months, and
great.
it's one of the most impressive games in its class, with detailed models, environments, and smooth 60 frames per second animations.
Good
All the
segue.
champions in the game can be customized with unique gear that changes your strategic buffs and abilities. The dungeon bosses have some ridiculous skills of their own, and figuring out the perfect party and strategy to overtake them is lots of fun. So if you could start playing today, wish you good luck, and I'll see you in the game.
Disclaimer: not actually sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
I think you just
Disclaimer, actually sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends.
can't argue with that. Yeah, most of the games I play nowadays, if even, are mostly older stuff just for nostalgia's sake. Um, but I definitely have not played Raid Shadow Legends. Um, but I guess seeing as my interview was sponsored by them, I kind of have to.
I was about to say, 'cause you could click on the special link that Pet will be putting in the description, and you'll get 50,000 silver and a free Epic Champion as part of the
Oh
nuclear
man,
program to start your journey.
I can't pass up a deal like that. Um, I obviously I'm still in college. Like I'm a big fan of my team's or of my school's basketball team
Ooh,
because
cool.
we're pretty decent. So I've been doing some sports betting.
Ooh, like
Um,
that.
yeah, it's fun, especially if I have the money to lose. But I'm
Do
also
you
in for
mind
my enjoyment.
talking about like which school are you part of?
I went to Marquette.
Mark, you're in
Ooh,
Wisconsin. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, one
fancy.
of my friends is like a huge Marquette guy.
really? Did he go there?
No, he went with me to Alabama, but he's from Milwaukee, like the Milwaukee area.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's been a fun season so far. Definitely better than I expected it to be. And always when you have Marcus Howard, who was the nation's leading scorer last year, that's always it makes for interesting basketball.
100%. Yeah.
Just if our coaching could be a little bit better, you'd get over some humps. Um, Alabama was pretty good a couple years ago, though, right? With
Yeah, with Colin Sexton.
yeah, that kid's a beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, that's kind of what I've been doing in my spare time. Um, and it's just a lot of miscellaneous things. I'm really bored at home. I have an
Oh,
apartment. I have an apartment with a couple of my friends. That's more fun to be in, just because living with my friends is fun.
mhm.
But definitely having air conditioning and a working heating system are things that I also appreciate
Oh,
while being
absolutely.
at home.
Did you have to do all online school for the whole semester?
No, so last year we got sent home after spring break,
Uh-huh.
and uh, that is when school went all online. This year they had hybrid, so like some classes were online, some classes were in person. I know that's what a lot of schools did.
Mhm.
So I since I'm a master's student now, a lot of my classes are at times where like people aren't really going like to class. Like I had like a 5:30 class
Yeah.
in the evening. So that was really nice because I actually got to go to class physically. We had to wear masks and all that, but it was nice to be able to just kind of not have everything online. Because when it's online, you have to motivate yourself entirely intrinsically, which is like everything you have to be like, okay, like I have to go do online school now. Or at least being able to go to class is like, okay, like I kind of have to be here. But definitely not a fan of the online stuff at all. But you got to do what you got to do. Thank you, COVID.
All right. Cool. Thanks for telling that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So, what game are you most proud of, and why?
Oh, easy. Probably the second quest zone.
Nice.
Um, I know Spell said he wasn't too fond of the puzzle plat.
I wasn't
But
knocking on Quest Zone. I was just
right,
in
no,
general
just on
more
in
like
general. I know. I think just like the time that I spent on making that game is just like you kind of have to be proud of it a little bit.
Mhm. It's a massive game.
Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah, it is really massive. Which is it got some knocks for that, which I understand. But regardless, like a lot of the stuff in there, there's a lot of puzzles which I think hadn't really been seen before, or really explored. Um, Maddie obviously did an excellent job with the scenery.
Oh,
Uh,
Maddie did the scenery for. I didn't know
yep,
that.
yep, yep. Stanley Kitten did the scenery for the first one, and Maddie did the scenery for the second one. Like I
Yeah.
said, the creator lag was just too much for me. So if I did the scenery, the game would have never been finished.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Hey, Spell. Honey, I can do the scenery for a collab if you guys want to.
I like doing scenery.
Oh, okay.
But yes, you can do it.
So, did you have any like favorite game makers who like inspired your games?
Well, it depends. So early on, obviously, I talked about Super Piggy. Um, Playing Opprobrium for the first time was really cool.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a lot of. They didn't really inspire me because I didn't really explore the physics creator a lot, but there were a lot of cool games that were made
Hmm.
in physics. Liamnight, I remember had the first like cool multiverse based game. I
Human
think
Destiny.
Team Eyes. Huh?
Is it Human Destiny?
No. Oh, it's like I forgot what the name is. It's something really generic, but it was a really cool game. At least from
I don't remember it. Dang, I'll have to check it out later.
And then but that was before the graphics era, and then when graphics got introduced, like holy cow, like some of the stuff people did in the physics creator was so cool. And in the plat too, like some of the scenery just took a huge leap.
Hmm.
I remember T. Mize making some pretty cool physics games. I never really got into the shooter for whatever reason. I just thought it was boring, and I wasn't really too thrilled with the creator. I never really got good at it either, which is probably why I didn't like it too much. I had one shooter attempt and it was terrible. Um,
Dungeon's fine, honestly.
yeah, it's okay. It like I didn't really put that much into it, as much as I should have at least. I didn't really give the shooter a fair shake. But I also didn't really get the puzzles either, which is probably a big part of it. I just didn't like know how to make games with it. Obviously, I talked about how Lonely Roads kind of inspired the chapter series.
Yeah.
'Cause that was my answer to that. I was like, oh, like let me try making an RPG plat because that seems really cool. Like I hadn't really thought about it like that yet. Um, I know you kind of dunked on this in your last interview, Spell, but I really liked Grand Quest by Radical Soul.
Say what?
I said I liked Grand Quest.
Everyone loves that game. I don't know why.
Well, actually, more the second one than the first one. I remember playing the first one and was like, "Oh, cool," but the second one, just the way that he used the whip, uh,
Mhm.
like as a weapon, kind of opened, the possibility to me of like, oh, like some enemies, the snarly can't get you from that range. That's pretty cool. That
Yeah.
you can use that in the whole game. And I think some of the environments looked a little bit cooler
Oh,
too.
it's a really pretty game. Definitely.
So at least in that aspect, it kind of led to me trying again. Quest Zone was kind of my answer to, Rave Quest by Elroy, who actually, oh yeah, Elroy and I were pretty good friends, right? Kind of an early sploder.
Mhm.
Um, but Quest Zone was my kind of answer to that, to Grand Quest, to Rave Quest, to those kinds of games.
Really?
Uh, yeah, absolutely. And then kind of by the later point, I'd been good enough where I don't really think a whole lot inspired me. Those
Mhm.
huge games with the scenery that I was talking about earlier that were Switch hunts, those I thought were really cool just because they looked so good. Um, and that I think kind of found its way a little bit into chapter two,
Yeah.
um, just at least the style. But by that point, I was kind of done making games, so I wouldn't say those really inspired me. Those kind of more inspired ideas that I never followed up on. I remember playing Wrath of Kronos by Black Hole.
Oh, that one's really cool, yeah.
Yeah, I
Another
remember
easy
that.
favorite.
I liked that a lot, especially because I was into Greek mythology when I was younger, because I was a big Percy Jackson guy. Uh,
Mhm.
that was like my childhood in fifth grade, was reading those books. I remember playing the Wrath of Kronos, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty dope." So I remember I had some collabs with Black Hole planned that never really panned out. Uh,
Unfortunate.
but I think he was one of the better ones in terms of making huge exploration levels that weren't tedious. Um, at least from my memory.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
that
that's pretty cool.
I think those are the main ones.
I will say for Grand Quest, I liked it at the time. Okay, it's just recent. Like when I played it recently, it's not as good as I.
I
I
don't
just
know.
don't.
I just remember. I think Grand Quest was made around the same time as like Cyber Gangstar, and
Mhm.
I thought that for me personally, Cyber Gangstar was like a lot more impressive than
Yeah,
in that game.
I remember spending hours trying to beat Cyber Gangster.
That's a
Uh,
good
I
game.
remember. Okay, I got to the end of Cyber Gangstar like 5 times, and then there was like no elevator, and I didn't know how to get up to the end.
yeah, you know what? That sounds familiar. Uh, yeah, Bobbler and I had kind of a love-hate relationship.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think.
well, he just likes to shit on my games because they were so long.
Bobbler Bobbler kind of had that. I think it was anytime like another game maker was getting any props from anybody, he would shit on that game maker because I think that he wanted to be the best or something.
Right, right, which
Yeah.
is interesting. His games were good, um, but I don't know if they were amazing. Like they were pretty good.
I don't know.
Uh,
I like his games a lot. I think
Owlslayer was
that
really fun. I know he was more of a shooter guy, and I never really got into shooter.
I think he
Uh,
was. I'd say he's like very arcadey, like
yes,
platform guy.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
It's not that I didn't like his games. It's just that like we have different preferences.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah.
and part of it's probably fueled by the fact that he always shit on me. So I was like, okay, like, I'm not gonna like anything you make. Um, but yeah, I remember Owlslayer was pretty cool because that was one of the first games that was like all graphics,
Mhm.
like the entire thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of go back and play games now,
Mhm.
because some of them might not hold up, just with what has been done and like the whole graphics thing is kind of a game changer in terms of scenery. So you kind of really have to look at the game when it was made and be like, oh, okay, this is really impressive for the time. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, for the graphics for Quest Zone, you got Gaminator on that, right?
He did, yeah, he did the graphics
Okay.
because he was
Just
really
making
good
sure.
at making graphics. I never got good at that,
Me
so I was
too.
just like, I just outsourced this to someone else. Uh,
Pretty
yeah,
smart.
he just made the enemy graphics, so like he didn't do a ton, but it was definitely appreciated and they looked pretty good. So I was happy
They
with
did
that.
look very good.
Um,
Um, so what parts of making games appeal to you, like the most?
I think it was the challenge of like trying to make something that's both creative and fun at the same time, and especially trying to be innovative, uh,
Mhm.
especially given that like as you know my later games are my better games definitely,
Yeah.
uh, but also by that point you have like people have explored the creator way more. I remember when I don't know if this is the first platformer update, but it was the one where you could have multiple levels. That was the first update for. I remember that being huge, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool." Um, but by the time I was making later games, people had explored the creator pretty far. So I really enjoyed trying to like dig in and find things that were new,
Mhm.
or find ways to be competitive with other games. Because there were a lot of games, especially by the time Quest Zone 2 came out, that were utilizing graphics in a way that like I just didn't, or were doing action sequences that I wasn't using or things like that. So I had to find ways to be like, okay, well, like you can do this, but this is what I'm adding in this game. Um, so I don't know. It was just kind of a fun experience to make your own game. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I found the website because I was like, when I was 11, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make my own game, and this was the first website that came up, which is why I came here. And I really fell in love with the platformer creator. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
most of what my games are because I was a big Mario Zelda guy at the time,
Yeah.
which kind of also Zelda inspired Quest Zone 2 a lot.
Oh, I
Just
didn't know that.
Yeah, well, the whole intention of Quest Zone 2 was to make a game that utilizes every item at the same time. Which is why like each level you find a new item and that item helps you solve the level. Like that's kind of a Zelda dungeony type
Mhm.
motif there.
So you'd say you make games because like just the innovative part
Yeah,
is like very creative,
yeah, because
appealing.
it's fun. It's fun.
Mhm.
It's rewarding to be able to like make your own stuff and be like, I made this,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
which I think is part of the reason why towards the end I could only make huge games because like if there was something I wasn't satisfied with, like what's the point?
Mhm.
But that
Yeah, I think
ultimately,
a lot of people ended up like that.
yeah,
Sadly.
ultimately though, that's the demise is that now you have to do so much work just to make a single game, and it's like I just don't have the time for this anymore because I have like friends and like homework and other things to do, um, which is kind of why I phased out towards the end.
Yeah. So, do you remember anything about your like thought process when you first joined Sploder?
My what process?
Your thought process, like when you
What
first joined and started making stuff.
What do you mean?
Like, what were you thinking like at first? So you're like, oh, there's this dumb website with a bunch of, you know.
No, I mean I was committed to making my story game. I was like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna make this series of like 8.1, 8.2 because Mario or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Um, I was having a good time with it. I don't really know what my thought process was. It was just like, this is fun. I'm gonna keep doing this
Cool.
because I like making my own game, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then I joined the community, and like that kind of evolved because the community was almost a game in itself, really, especially in the early days. Just because it was fun to like talk to people, and there were like contests and things like that. Uh,
Mhm.
you have the whole rank system. I remember the era where people made their own forums so they could all be admins, which was pretty
Hmm.
funny.
Yep.
I don't
Um,
remember that. I should have
oh
done that.
We're still doing it.
yeah, and then people all the time these forums would get hacked. Like it was so funny. Like someone would just tear down someone else's forum and just be like, "Well, that's what happens. That's why you were not in charge of this site." Um, but I don't know. It was just like it was
Shouldn't have
something to
gotten
do.
hacked, loser.
It was something to do, and it quickly became addictive. I think, at least when I was younger.
All right, so you kind of touched on like Legend of Zelda. Are there any other like games or outside media that really influenced your stuff then?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Zelda's probably the big one.
Hmm.
Um, I
Probably
mean, I guess,
subconscious anyway. You probably
huh?
wouldn't know.
Yeah. I mean, some of the story elements from some of my early games were based off of like Okami. I don't know if you guys played that, but
Yep.
that's a great
The Wolf
Mhm.
game.
game. Yes, too. Um, that those were kind of the games I played while I was making games here. So Zelda, Mario, and then early Okami had some plot stuff, but otherwise not really.
Yeah.
At least as far as the games here, I didn't really want to make like I know some people made versions of games. Like someone made like a Pokemon in the physics creator. I didn't really want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of wanted to make my own thing and just have inspiration based off of that. Um, but I couldn't really tell you what specifically influenced what games.
Mhm. So I know you said like you like platformer because of like Mario and Zelda and
Yeah,
stuff. You
yeah.
never really got into any other ones. Um,
Uh,
but I feel like you could probably do some stuff like that in the shooter. Is there anything else, or is it just mainly it's like Mario Zelda?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Oh, that's fine.
Like, I
It's just a
mean,
quick little question.
I probably gravitated towards the platformer because, like, when I was like young, like me and my sister would play like Crash Bandicoot, which was a platformer game, and I was like, "Oh, that's a platformer. This is a platformer. Like, I bet I'll like this."
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know why I didn't like the other creators as much. The physics creator was just too much work for me. I was like,
Yeah.
"This is so complicated. I just don't care about any of this stuff." I actually did make a Zelda game that was okay,
Mhm.
pretty mediocre. It got the feature, which is all you can ask for with that. Um, but mainly I stuck to plants.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this image, and I'll try to post out in chat. Let's see. Snip tool. And it says it's from a really old game from 2011, World 6.2, Ye New City. And the reason I'm asking is just I'm kind of just like satisfy my curiosity, I guess. Are those like people who are like you knew like on the website or something, and you wanted to put them in a game?
Yep, yep, that's what it looks like. I
Oh, do
think.
you remember anything like that?
Oh
No.
god, no, those are like early main site friends. Like,
Um,
I mean,
cool.
because
That
if you look at the date, it's February 2011, which was like a month or two after I joined the forum, so I hadn't really built up like my friend group on the community yet. So I kind of still talk to my main site friends, and I think those are the people I talked to the most.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I liked, especially early on, I liked putting my friends in my games just for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Uh, that's funny that you busted that out. Honestly, I don't even remember those games.
Oh yeah, I just played them recently for the research.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Another idle curiosity I have is how come the last level of like the world stuff are usually like called 8.D or like 7.D, etc.
Dungeon,
Hmm?
dungeon.
Oh, dungeon. I
Yep,
see.
yep. And you can actually you could timestamp there where Jeff added the multiple levels because there's a point where I start making games with multiple levels there
Yeah.
in that world series. I think it's somewhere in World 4 is when it first got introduced. So that must have been really early when he added the update.
And I noticed like in the World Series, I don't know if like you rebooted or something, but like there's like several like World 1.1s.
There was a
So like
second one. There was a
yeah,
second one.
second.
I just got bored of it. So that was another one where I collabed on a lot of the levels. That was actually when I first collabed with Maddie. I think World
Hmm.
2.1, something Sky, whatever. I don't know. But so yeah, I started that and then I got bored of it. And then I got kind of, believe it or not, Quest Zone took up most of my time because that game was
Yeah.
pretty big. Um, so I just stopped making them. And then, once I saw obviously, I learned a lot about game making while I made Quest Zone.
Mhm.
Um, and then, like, I saw Spells RPG thing, and I'm like, I kind of want to make that instead. So I just kind of stopped making the World Series. I kind of grew out of that.
Yeah.
But I think some of the later World games, like the second series, some of those got featured. They were pretty decent.
Mhm. So I don't know if like you remember, and it's okay if you don't. Like, do you know the story behind each of the World Series?
Not the second one. The first World Series, the story's very loose.
Hmm.
Something something, evil guy in a maze that's gonna wake up and destroy the world, blah 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 blah. Evil group, you have to get crystals or whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
that's not a great plot synopsis.
Don't
Uh,
worry about it.
yeah, sorry, I really don't remember. Uh, yeah,
I was
storytelling.
kind of curious because like you made like a backstory like spin-off series as well as just kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
if you look at some of my games, storytelling was definitely not my strong suit. Uh,
Hmm.
creativity, not really there either. I made a Quest Zone and a Quest Zone 2 and Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Those are like my best games. And the names, just there's nothing there. I wasn't really known for my storytelling and creativity as much as I was more for the execution.
Well, I do think your stories got a lot like stronger as they went along. Like Quest Zone has decent story.
Yeah, it's just like not groundbreaking. Like it has a story.
Mhm. And
um,
oh, actually, Lab 22 has a pretty good story actually. That's like pretty central to that one.
it does.
Yeah, so I don't
interesting.
think you're like bad at stories.
I just wasn't great. Like I wasn't a trailblazer in that regard.
Mhm. So in a lot of your stories in your games, there's like some really funny stuff in them, like
Yeah.
the comments from the owl, like Queststone.
Yeah.
Like and in regard to like humor, like is this like inspired by like Cyber Gangstar? Like
A little bit. I don't really remember. I think that was kind of just more my own style.
mhm.
Because I wanted to have a little bit of fun with it. Obviously, writing text for owls isn't the most riveting work in the
Yeah.
world. So I was like, hey, ha ha ha, I'm a little high school freshman. I'm gonna insert some inappropriate humor in here because it's funny. Um, I don't remember exactly when I played Cyber Gangster, but I do know that that was known for being funny, so that might have had an effect. I just don't remember.
Mhm.
But that's also kind of just who I am too.
And do you think like humor has like a place in like Sploder platformers? I mean, moot question, Sploder's dying, but still.
It should, right? Like you have to realize where you are.
Mhm.
It's very hard to take a Sploder game seriously.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it needs humor, but it like definitely that was just kind of more my style.
Mhm.
And sometimes it was cringy when a game would take itself too seriously. So just
Insert like half of the Sploder games here.
right, right, yeah. So that was kind of more just my own personal preference, but I think it definitely has a place. Um, and sometimes it just makes it more fun.
Mhm.
Like why not have a funny joke or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. Like some of them also have like what's it like really absurd stuff like where you work up to become a corporate overlord.
Yeah, no, I had fun with that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, by that point too, I was just like, what would be fun? Like corporate overlord like that.
I was wondering what like inspired that specifically. It's
Oh
very
god, I don't remember. Honestly,
that's
like
okay.
I couldn't tell you. I was thinking like I just need some big central quest here, and
Mhm.
my hobbies at the time must have included business or something because I was like, hey, how about you try to pop up a business or something by doing menial tasks and things like that. Um,
Mhm.
I think that's probably one of my favorite sequences too. Was that whole side thing?
Yeah. And then like chapter 1 isn't like there's like half a town who steals like statues from each other or something.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. The level that Coney skipped, you have to like go return statues to people. I just have fun with it. Just
Mhm.
like what is a good reason to go back and forth between these places?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, that
Definitely
uh,
makes backtracking more fun.
yeah, it does a little bit, especially because backtracking usually is pretty tedious. Not
So it
saying
sounds like your writing process is pretty freeform then?
yeah,
Oh,
I
that's cool.
usually didn't have a ton of stuff in mind. When I was making games, it's just like okay, this is where it's gonna go. And especially with the chapter games, the side quests were all ad libbed.
Mhm.
Um, but some of the later stuff that I never made, I had some pretty uh complicated storylines planned out.
Mhm.
Uh, I remember spending a good amount of time talking to young Calaman, who I guess was known for making his very symbolic based storylines. And I was like, "Hey, what do you think of this idea? Hey, what do you think of this idea?"
Painted
Uh,
black.
yeah, I can't say I was a fan of Callie's games all the time, uh, just because they were hard and
Mhm.
sometimes a little bit boring. But like, he definitely was very talented um, in crafting like a symbolic story piece.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so chapter 1 and 2 like are some of the few like big open world games I believe in Sploder. So like how did going about like making an open world game differ from like, normal game?
Uh, I mean, you have to be more. Oh no, I think Tony's screwed here. Um, you have to be more conscientious of the space. I think
Mhm.
you have to be smarter about how you plan out where people go.
Yeah.
Um, Oh, no, you're not. The key's open. The key's open in the central room. Um, yeah, you have to be more creative about how you have people do things. Again, a part of it is that, like, since the core of your gameplay isn't puzzles anymore, you have to have something for people to be preoccupied with. You
While
know
they're
that
backtracking.
right. That's one of the things that a lot of the other games that, like the Switch Hunt games I was talking about earlier, that was a big problem where like literally all you did was walk around uh, and find switches, and that was the entire game, and that's boring. So you have to find a way to make the game interesting enough, um, to keep people playing and to obviously,
Mhm.
it's not fun just to make Switch Hunt games. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
even some of my chapter games still have puzzle sections. Like the dungeons are essentially just puzzle levels. Um, there you go. So I mean, even that I never really made a true open world platformer. It was more of a mix.
Mhm.
Um,
So it was more
but
challenging to make an open world, though? More planning.
it depends because you can also get away with having more empty space.
It's
You know,
true.
with the puzzle plat, it's if you have to stuff it with enough content. Because it's very easy to be like, okay, like this puzzle only takes up this much space. Like now,
Mhm.
what's the rest of your level going to be? Whereas with the open world, you can just have a huge flat of space, stick some enemies out there, maybe have like a switch to come back to you later, and call it a day. So they're very different.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
think
think
the
I've
open
got a
world,
question to add on to that.
yeah.
If you could like describe what you think the perfect game would include, do you have like any ideas that like you don't really see that get displayed often in games? You mentioned that in the like Switch Hunt games, there's kind of like a lot of empty space, and all you're really doing is looking around, for switches. How would
Right.
you go about fixing that?
Um, I don't really know. That's the existential threat to the exploration games for me though too. Like that's kind of the point as to where they are weak. I think you just need to have enough variation in the game. So obviously, puzzle sequences aren't the only kind of sequences you can have in games. You can have action sequencing. You have to go fight the robot, Coney.
Yeah.
Uh,
She can't get out.
uh,
I did the same thing in the first time I played through. I had to restart.
not just can you not just spam the grapple?
She can, but then she has to fight the robot, and she'll probably die.
Oh no. Oh, is there a thing down there too?
Yeah, she should have just let it follow her the whole time.
Yeah, just try and bait it down there then. The robot's probably gonna kill you though, because that is brutal. Um, so I mean, I know definitely graphics help. Like having an engaging storyline helps. Um, I don't really know how to fix it though. It's kind of tough. I'm
Mhm.
always a proponent of breaking up the game with puzzle sections or having additional things in there to explore. Optional content is a good way to do that too. Having a lot of stuff in there that like you don't necessarily have to touch, but if the player wants to, they can. But also makes the levels a little bit shorter, unless people want to explore. Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. um, yeah. So again, I think you just have to really try and be as versatile as possible, and add as many different gameplay experiences as you can. I don't really know one specific way. It's just a lot of little things. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Mhm.
100%.
It's really interesting. Okay, so most of your games like are pretty linear,
Yeah.
and I noticed that the chapter games even have like linear segments in them. So did you even like think about like with linear, is it just natural? I mean, I guess it is natural to make a linear game, but
Well, I mean, yeah, the
basically,
linear is pretty intuitive. You don't really have to. It's worse though, because you don't really have to plan out the space as much. Um, with the chapter games, it felt kind of natural to have linear sections just because it's just this huge open space.
yeah,
And moving right was naturally the way to go. So I'm not really concerned about it as much with that.
it's
I haven't.
interesting because Spell has his games go left.
Yeah, I know we talked about that too. Which I think I did that more as I got better at it. I think creating singularly linear games is pretty is like a notable flaw that a lot of game makers have. Um, so I don't know. I definitely tried to work on it, especially in the second quest zone where a lot of the levels are a lot more
It's not
varied.
necessarily a bad thing to be linear. I was just,
No, but it like you just don't need to plan out where the space as much. I think that is
Mhm.
advanced to me. Having linear sections isn't bad, but definitely if the entire game is linear. And that was the problem with a lot of the puzzle plats back in the day, though, too, is that a lot of them were just straight paths where it's like, okay, solve this puzzle, then walk down this hallway, go into this room, solve this puzzle. You see a lot of the games that were better are the ones that have the player either solving some sort of big puzzle
Mhm.
or levels that have players going through multiple rooms, like,
Yeah.
time and time again. So that I think that's one of the reasons why I liked Opprobrium a lot, was because you go, through sections, and then come back to them later. I know you do that a lot in Enigma, which was kind of the point, was to
Mhm.
have players kind of cycle through this area and be like, "Okay, now that I have this key, or now that I have activated the switch, or now that I have this item, what can I do in here?" Um,
Yeah.
that again is kind of the whole point of the second Quest M game too.
Mhm. And I think it works really well, honestly, in Quest Zone. So Quest Zone 2 has a lot of grenade puzzles. Like a lot, a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Is
like,
there a reason you did that?
pause grenade was just very unexplored.
Mhm.
By that point, it was a lot of it was just like, okay, you throw the grenade in here, press P, and that's the puzzle.
But
So
yeah, you definitely found a lot of cool stuff in it.
I saw that and I was like, okay, I feel like having a projectile that can touch things is a very unexplored space.
Mhm.
Um, I talked earlier
Like
about
you had like a maze where you had to move grenades through. That was cool.
yeah, I think that was my favorite puzzle probably in that game. Um, so people just hadn't really utilized the pause grenade glitch uh, to its potential, and I was like, I can make a game out of this. Really, the entire game isn't grenade puzzles, but definitely there is a heavy dose. Um,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of the game's cooler puzzles too are all grenade based, especially once you hit the factory level and you get the power gloves.
Oh yeah, the factory level was really cool. Except that
Yeah,
it's a little bit difficult to like do some stuff.
yeah, some of the stuff in there is pretty bullshit. Um, the some of like the
There's
glitching
the
stuff.
cool concept where you have like all the burst houses blow open when you get to the top, and then the drones
Yeah,
come out.
yeah. So
But
I
they
knew I
didn't
wanted
like, blew themselves
yeah
up.
the dad or whatever. The point of
Yeah.
that level was to essentially so you climb up 3 times, but each time you go up, even though it's the same layout, you have to take a
Mhm.
different path, which
Yeah,
was
yeah.
different with the level, which I really liked making that one just because I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and then you have to, like, push the ball, down to the bottom of the level,
Mhm. I thought that was really cool. Yeah,
climb back up a different way. That is one of my more the problem with Quest Zone 2 is that a lot of the good levels are so late. Uh,
mm, I really like level 2, and like
really?
yeah,
Wait, is that the stone one?
it had like all the fire and the grappling hook and
Oh, that's the 4th level, that's the volcano one. Or the 3rd, like, trial, the 4th level in the game because the
what do you
intro
mean? I'm still isn't that the third level then?
It's
no,
got it's got
sand.
the intro level.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah. The problem is you have to play through the sand level to get there, and I hate the sand level.
yeah.
Like, it's very
I mean,
pretty
this
and,
level
like
has a lot of waiting on elevators, but it's
yeah,
not bad.
that's why it sucks. That's the only reason. Like, the puzzles are pretty good,
Oh shoot, you're so low. Oh no.
but the waiting is just drag.
Mhm.
Um, so you kinda have to play like, it probably takes a solid 20 minutes to get to the volcano level.
I don't
Uh,
know if she can live through this.
uh, yeah, that'll be tough.
All right. Well, anyway, Quest 1 and 2 have like what's it called? Really strange owl companions, to say the least.
Yeah,
Was this because of the don't trust the owl games, or did you just?
I'm
Hmm?
sorry, tell me. That was just I needed what do you mean? Like The fact that the owls turn out to be the bad guys, or
Yeah, that and they're also just, they have some interesting, like, dialogue,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the owl was my, cracked out. I've been working on this game for hours.
Yeah.
Brain. Like, okay, this is what this guy's gonna say. Like, he's just gonna say some stupid shit, and then that'll be that. Um, I mean, the second game was more so because I did it in the first game, and
Mhm.
part of the parody there was that like the second game is basically the first game except just better. In terms of the levels, and I even acknowledged that in the first level. I'm like, this is the same thing. So I was like, okay, well, if it's the same game, then the owl's gonna be the bad guy again.
I will
And
say
he's
though,
gonna say, huh?
like, I don't know, Quest 1 has some interesting stuff that makes it sometimes, like, better even than Quest 2. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a lot less polished.
Yeah.
Um, I think with that though too is that a lot of the earlier levels in Quest Zone 1 are good, while the later ones kind of drop off. Quest Zone 2
Mhm.
is more of the opposite, where a lot of the innovative puzzles are deep in the game. Whereas, the early levels are kind of getting players introduced with like, okay, here are all these items, here are the puzzles that we're going to introduce you to before you get to the advanced stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so, I mean, I remember liking the first couple levels of the first quest zone. The problem with the first quest zone is that it's pretty brutal. Uh, just in terms of like, there are some platforming sequences in there that are just
Yeah.
unfair. There's the
Arms
level
on, like, level 6, I think.
the light level and the sky level. Holy cow! Like, I
Mhm.
don't know what I was thinking when I made those. But they're really hard because it's like you have to
You are
jump
very
and land.
generous. It's
What?
definitely possible. You're very
Yeah, it is
generous with the
possible.
lives. Yeah.
Yes, I try to be. Um, I'm better about the lives in the second game though, definitely, because I'm like one of the criticisms I got to that point was that my games are so long, and I'm like, okay, well, let me make sure that like I give every opportunity for the player to not get screwed over by
Mhm.
just not having enough lives. That's also why the second game has a storage room. Um,
Yeah,
Meow Meow Furry Cat really loved the first quest zone. He played through all the way and got to the last
and
level.
then
There was
died.
one left. No, he was in the mace maze and ran out of mace, and that was just it. And I was like,
Ouch.
"Oh, that sucks." So that's why the second game has the storage room, and so that I can enforce that, like, you're gonna use every item on every level
Mhm.
that I give you.
Actually, that was
Um,
one of the things I was gonna ask next. It was, it implemented, I called it armory system, but storage system is probably a better word.
yeah,
Like, I was gonna ask how you came up with such a good idea, but yeah, just
um,
explain.
because of that, yeah. And because I wanted to make a game that forced you to use every item at the same time. I wanted to make a Zelda-esque, you play this level, you get the item of the level, you solve the level, you move on to the next level. Now you have a new
Yeah.
combination of items. And I think it's in the combination puzzles that this game gets really smart.
Mhm. Like
Uh,
in Quest of
and then
1, it, like, you give, like, the player a mace, and then you have, like, the mace, like, thing to break right afterward because you don't know if they're gonna have it later anyway, I noticed.
yeah, I did have a storage room.
Mhm.
Uh,
So now
not as
it's a lot of iteration. It's really cool.
this was an improvement. It was like, okay, I did this for one level. Let me make a whole game based off of this.
Mhm. So it
Um,
was the armory that led to the puzzles, and not like you wanted to do like a grenade maze, and you realized, oh shoot, I need a lot of grenades, even if they die.
well, I mean, by that point, I had already been implementing the armory system. That had been there since the beginning of the game. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that the player would not run out of items.
Uh-huh.
You know, if you should not really run out of items if you budget well. Um,
Uh-huh.
because obviously, if you die, you lose all your items, and that would basically break the game. So I had to make sure that the player had a constant stock.
Uh-huh.
Um, that kind of comes at the consequence of by the end of the game, you're ridiculously powerful. Um,
Yeah.
but some of the sequences with the enemies get a little bit more tricky, so that compensates a bit.
Yeah. And at the
Um,
end of the game, you like remove all the items anyway, so it doesn't matter.
yep, yep. So the second to last level or the third to last, whatever. Uh, I intentionally made it so that you have to go get all of your items again in that level. And I was really excited about making that because I knew I was going to do that from like the start. I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I'm going to take away all the items and then have separate trials for each level," um, which was really cool too because I that whole level was supposed to be a surprise. Because I don't think I hyped it up in the like on the forums. And obviously you could only see up to level 9. So I was like, this is gonna be a cool little twist level. that forces the player to kind of revisit everything they'd done in the game before. So I had a lot of fun with
Yeah,
that.
those are my favorite levels. There were cool like windmill stuff things in there.
Unfortunately, by the end, the creator lag was horrible.
Yeah.
Just terrible. So honestly, I don't know how I made that, because
Um,
that was just hell.
this is maybe not. Maybe this shouldn't be public information, but how do you get to Cloud 9 on that level?
Oh, yeah, okay. So, one of the things that I do regret about that game actually is that some of the exploration stuff is pretty bullshit. Um, all the secret keys and stuff,
Mhm.
are hidden in places that, like, there's no reason you would have gone there. Um, I guess the one in the sand is pretty fair because you go down the place where you put the ball and there's the little blocks you break.
Yeah.
That one's as stupid. Um, but so in the dream part, I just beat the game last night, so let me make sure I'm talking about the right one. But there's this part where you have to use the power glove to move a ball down and push some crates,
Oh,
and like the two crates go to the left and the right. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, yeah. I remember doing that. I just
Okay.
yeah.
So behind the crates there are melt blocks.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
melt those and push one of the crates all the way in, it opens up the lever.
Oh, yeah. I never did that because
Those
I
are
explored the level for like 10 minutes. I'm like, where is Cloud 9?
There's no reason you would ever do that. I think you might be able to see the invisible switches on the radar,
Mhm.
but I don't remember exactly. There's another thing like that in the water level where, if you so in the maze, there's a section where it just goes
Oh
straight.
yeah. I got everything except for Cloud 9. Is what I
Oh,
was.
really? Oh, good job, good job.
And the
See?
maze was like I feel more natural because you just want to break all the stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. And then did you also get the one in the mine trial?
Yeah. Isn't that the one where you jump down the big chute?
No, you have to melt the melt blocks in the whip trial, and there's a portal behind it.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
But, like,
Uh,
again, it's also pretty, like, why would someone ever do that? I wish I had better secrets,
it's
but
cool anyway.
it did let me beat the game, so that is a big part of it, because I need the blast gun for the final boss,
So
because
what's inside Cloud 9?
it's just the key.
Oh, I'm
It's just
sad.
a little you just teleport to a little cloud, and you get the key, and it's like, "You got the key," you know?
Nice.
Um, yeah, nothing too special, but just, like, a little area.
Alright, so moving out of Quest Zone, I guess. One of your games I was most excited for when it came out was Devastating Light, but
Whoops.
nothing came out of that. I always wanted to play more. What ended up happening?
I got bored.
Oh, okay.
I
You
think
release it
I
now,
don't
or
remember if that was before or after Quest Zone, but I found something I liked doing more, and I did that.
Mhm.
It was an interesting idea. It would have been really hard to implement.
did you start work on the game at all?
Yeah, I made the demo, and I was like, "This is the idea," and I tried to get I think Calaman actually agreed to help on it, and just never came to light.
It never came to Devastating
Yeah,
Light.
it never came to devastating light. There you go.
So,
That was more of a conceptual thing. I don't know how the actual game would have played out.
yeah. I mean, it's still cool. Would how would you say, like, your approach to making games, like, changed over time? Do you think
Um,
it changed significantly?
well, I mean, again, I didn't really play Legend of Zelda as much when I was younger. And then I got older and I played it and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I wanna do this." So obviously my games got a little bit less linear.
Mhm,
Uh, as you get older, you just get smarter. So I planned things out better. Stuff
mhm.
got more original. Um, I don't really know. Like I just got better at planning, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty reasonable.
And especially after the EGD with Quest Zone and Lonely Roads, so many games got released that were like, wow, like that game is cool, or like I want to do that, or I want to do something like that. Like not even just Lonely Roads, but like even Oceans had some cool things in it. I remember there being a couple cool physics games, like a lot of other cool. I think Super Piggy released a game that was like a very actiony oriented platformer, and when you see people make those kinds of games, though, that implicitly makes its way into how you build your games, where it's like, okay, this is the standard now. Um, this is gonna change, like, what constitutes good enough for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Being one of the most successful Sploder members of all time, well, do you feel did you feel anything like getting all those views? Or is that something you're aiming for?
I mean, it wasn't something I was aiming for, but it was neat. I was just like, "Oh, this is
Mhm.
cool, like, I'm glad that I'm good at this." That's probably why I stuck around for as long as I did, because it's like, "Okay, people like this, like, let me keep going. Let me keep going, let me keep pushing." Eventually I got older and I got bored, but, like, prior to that, um, I think every game maker kinda has that point where they get their first feature,
Mhm.
and it's like, "Oh, like, I did something good." And I got it, I think, before I joined the forums. Um,
Oh, that's surprising. That's really hard.
yeah, I mean, I think editors were more active like in 2010.
Mhm.
But still, you get that point and you start building momentum. Um, and that kind of just really shaped, the way I built games. I kind of built games more for me than anyone else. Like I've made games that I want to play.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's definitely rewarding to see all those views. It just meant like, oh, you were doing something right. Um, but by that point, prestige mattered more to me. Just like getting a feature wasn't enough. Now it had to be an Epic Game Library caliber project.
Yeah.
And that gets exhausting.
So, what was the first game you were free to see the feature on then? Like,
It was World 6.D Shadow Temple.
wow. You remember the exact one? That's surprising.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I was just really stoked because I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I didn't
Mhm.
even know that like this was a thing, and now I'm on the feature page, and a bunch of people were playing my game. And then that's when you start getting attention from other editors. And that's I think when I discovered the forums too.
Alright, so what was the process of the collabing like for you? This is probably what Spell wanted to talk about a little bit, so I'll let him
What
take
do you
over.
what do you mean? What was the process of collabing?
Yeah, there are some challenges I hear, What was that? What happened
Yeah,
exactly?
I can bring up the one. It's actually a little bit before both you and I had left, or maybe it was possibly I had left and you left a little bit afterwards.
Mhm.
There's this giant collab with you and like 6 other members where I was supposed to write the story and then you guys would make the game. It's like remember it's
Oh,
like an angel game?
yeah, vaguely. Was that the one where you like? Was that the one where you go kill God or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And like he destroys, or like a village gets destroyed, and at the end of the game you become God.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I got bored. That's the problem. That's the problem. Uh, I meant to do all the collabs that I thought about, but I just like never got around to it, or like by that point, especially, if that was right around when I left, as I got older, game making kind of just was less fun.
Mhm.
Um, Again, mainly because of the creator lag that really killed it for me. Because you build these huge levels, and
Jeff,
then
fix your damn website.
yeah, right. You build these huge levels that you feel like you have to build because otherwise it's not gonna be good enough, and then it's just a horrible, horrible experience building them because they're so slow. And then if the creator is slow, then you're like, okay, like I don't want to do as much. And if you don't do as much, then you get lazy about building games. And then at that point too, I was trying to implement graphics, and that also lags the creator to hell. Um, so a lot of collabs died just based off of me not wanting to do work. Uh,
Mhm.
and I usually most of the collabs I was a part of, I had the central vision. It was like my idea. So if I wasn't doing anything, the other people weren't doing anything either. Um, which I mean, I felt a little bit bad about because people would message me and be like, "Hey, we're gonna start working on this," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow," and I just never did it. But I mean, I did participate in some other collabs like back when I still had energy for this. I couldn't tell you what they were. Um, at least the ones where I didn't have complete game making control. Because most of Quest Zone and Quest Zone 2, that's all me.
Yeah.
Aside from a couple sequences, I think Maddie helped me puzzle out, but most of it is me. And I had someone else do the scenery. So I couldn't tell you what other games I contributed to, but those weren't published on my account.
Mhm.
So yeah,
And
sorry to all those people who I ditched collabs on. I meant to, I just was lazy.
Oswald, did you want to say anything?
Nope, not past that, really.
Okay. Any regrets in regards to game making? Like any ideas you wanted to see made that, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I have a graveyard of collabs.
Yeah.
There's that. Each of the chapter games was supposed to be a collaboration.
Ooh.
Though I don't know if the second one was or not. I don't think it was. Maybe I had Maddie do some stuff, but I really don't remember. And for the first one too, I don't remember collabing with anyone on those. I think I was good friends with my own self. I don't know if you guys remember
Yep.
him.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of my close friends, at least before he got promoted and all that. I don't remember if I was promoted first or not. Whatever. But yeah, I think he might have worked with me on the first chapter game. I don't know who worked with me on the second. I regret not making the others, especially because I did have some pretty decent work on the third game.
Mm-hmm.
But just release it anyways.
Huh?
Yeah, so, I mean, you can just release the game now if you said you have decent work on it.
I mean, it's like a couple levels.
It's not that bad, honestly.
And like one of them is just an unfinished dungeon. I was working with Black Hole because I remember seeing his scenery and I was like, "Yo, you're really good at this. I can make a game with." Because I think that was like right around when he made Wrath of Kronos, and I was like, "Yo, let's do this." And so I mean, I guess I could release it. I have to look at what's there. I remember the first level I was really proud of, just because it was pretty extensive in terms of all the side quests and stuff. But I also remember it getting flack for being huge, too long almost, which surprise. So yeah, I definitely wish I finished the chapter series before I departed. And I wish that I made some of my earlier games less brutal. Like if Quest Zone 2, or if the first Quest Zone was maybe a little bit less unfair, not toning down the difficulty, but saying like, okay, this section is pretty unreasonable for anybody. Or like at least adding some extra items, just being a little bit smarter about how I planned things out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't do everything you want to do, so.
All right, and then lastly, how do you feel about the end of Spoder? Do you have any plans, going forward? I guess probably just not being in Spoder.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have the rest of my life to go do. I mean, for me, it's been pretty much over for years now. It was a pretty hard cutoff after I went to college. And even before then, I was just out of touch with the community because most of the kids were younger, and I was, the people I talked to were kind of departing more.
Yeah.
So, it's really been over for me already. But it's always sad to see it go because it did bring me a lot of fun, and now it's not gonna do that for other people. But I've already coped with that, it being over for me.
Well, wonderful. That's all we had today. Thank you very much. Do you have any? If you have any personal projects you want to promote, you can go ahead and do that. We can also put those in the description if you like.
Personal what?
If you have any personal projects, Spell had like a book.
I don't think so.
No, okay.
Appreciate the offer though.
Well, wonderful. It's not like anyone. There's not that many people watching this anyway. Probably wouldn't be that.
Right. Sure.
Helpful, but yeah. Thank you for your time today. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Of course, my pleasure.
And yeah.
Joji, Konnichiwa, and Sticky, DCXD Rocky 2. I'm talking anew, Jigglypuff, Red Sovereign, and Joe Matt. Proxy Rocks and Blue Smoke best at games. I'm talking Elder and so trying to kiss. Ooh, that Glavilus and that Tipper Man. and Bolt 5 and Tire Man, Subaru and Joey 2. I'm talking vaccine and integrity 8-0. Motherfucking player 10 up, Darts Free Mex and Goomba Guru. I'm talking Jack HD1 and StarCraft 1, 2, 3, 4. Sydney Kitten Bell and Clock 74. I'm talking Cupid, motherfucking Dog Fox and Radical, motherfucking Spell, that's me, and to a lesser degree, I'm talking Dale AT2. Man, I'm talking Open, I'm talking Royster, man, it's Blue George and Whoop Whoop Cool Dude and Colwyn Chai. Yeah. If you deal with the white, you also deal with Lady Capulet, Mark Nut, Potato Mash, President Cat, Stephanio, Waffle, CD's Guns, and Father Ronaldo. Flavor Rush 101, you're just a special splotter user. Glacial Log of Hyrule Tour, Vaccine 2, and 0303. Man, we got our bots like Dan Meme or Me6, Not So Bot, Septipus, Sabotatsu. But you'll never hit the epicness of Izziness. Never hit the epics of those who left like buds open. Man, we got Jet 50, we got even President Kanye West. Man, you'll never beat the users of Slaughter.